My name is Allison. This is not my personal story, but rather a story about my friend. That friend is Alma, a friend from my university days. It seemed like she came from a wealthy family, like the ones you see in manga or dramas, the type of girl who's always adored for her cute face and doll-like figure. She seemed to take it for granted. However, it seemed like all the good qualities were overshadowed by her looks and figure, as her personality was far from pleasant. She would casually push aside other girls from our department who sat next to her and say things like, "Ugly, how can you have a boyfriend with a face like that? Ugliness is contagious, you know." She would even forcefully snatch away friends who managed to find boyfriends despite looking down on them. These were not things that a normal person would do, and I found myself somewhat repulsed by her actions. We didn't have a deep connection, but since we were in the same seminar group, we had quite a few opportunities to talk. I, myself, hadn't been the target of her ridicule, so interacted with her like any other ordinary friend. After graduating from university and starting my career, I completely lost touch with her, and I stopped hearing any rumors about her. Gradually, even her existence faded from my memory. Then, one day, I went to pick up my daughter from the taekwondo class. Normally, she would ride her bike to the class, but on that day, her bike had a flat tire, so I had to drive her instead. And there, by chance, I ran into Alma. She was the one who approached me, and I immediately recognized her, getting excited about our reunion after such a long time. She didn't make any derogatory remarks like she used to, and it seemed like she was raising a daughter around the same age as mine. It somehow created a sense of closeness between us. Her daughter had already been accepted into a prestigious private middle school and was simply continuing her extracurricular activities with ease, according to Alma. Her daughter, too, was incredibly beautiful, resembling her mother. She politely greeted me, saying, "Hello," and had an elegant and refined aura about her. The term graceful suited her perfectly. This incident led us to exchange contact information, and one day I was invited to Alma's house. She had definitely grown into an adult compared to our school days. With that in mind, I headed to her house with a box of cookies as a gift. When I pressed the doorbell, her daughter greeted me at the door. Soon after, Alma emerged from inside and ushered me into the living room. Her husband seemed to have a day off as well, sitting on the sofa and reading the newspaper. "Is your husband off today?" "I'm sorry for intruding on a day like this." In my haste, I apologized, but Alma replied, "It's fine, really. It's just a decoration." "A decoration? Isn't that a slightly inappropriate way to refer to him in front of their daughter?" That thought crossed my mind briefly, but before I could dwell on it, Alma's daughter spoke up. "Hey, seriously, he's creepy. Can't you go somewhere else?" I turned to the source of the astonished voice, and it was undoubtedly Alma's daughter who made that statement. She was saying to her own father, "Are you listening? You are annoying. It's unpleasant, so go hide in your room or something." She casually lined up words that hurt not only her father but also me, the listener. Even if she's going through puberty, would she really say such things to her own father? Certainly my daughter has rebelled against her father at times too, but she has never said anything like creepy or go somewhere else. She's only in 6th grade after all. If my daughter were to say something like that, my husband would be furious. But my husband and I have been careful with our choice of words and have raised our daughter with extra care because she's a girl. However, Alma's husband didn't show any sign of anger. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. He said that with a troubled smile, and then fell off the sofa in reaction to being kicked by his daughter. He went back to his room without saying a word. Meanwhile, Alma's daughter, looking satisfied, lay down on the sofa where her father had been sitting, humming a tune, and started playing with her phone. Even Alma herself, who witnessed the whole thing, didn't show any indication of scolding her daughter. On the contrary, she had a gleeful expression as she watched the scene unfold. Afterward, Alma's daughter didn't go to her room or join our conversation. She just sat on the sofa, watching TV and playing with her phone. Whenever Alma's husband came out of his room to use the bathroom or get a drink, she sighed and kept saying, "Hurry up and leave. You're disgusting. Don't come out of your room." Alma continued to engage me in various small talk, seemingly unconcerned. However, time passed without any of her words registering in my mind, and I went home. She had a beautiful face resembling Alma's, and when I first met her, I thought she was a very refined and well-mannered girl. Unfortunately, I became convinced that she had inherited Alma's personality. Despite her beautiful appearance, her character ruined everything. No matter how careful she was in public, her rude behavior at home would inadvertently seep out at times. I knew it was pointless for me, someone who wasn't even part of the family, to dwell on such matters. However, unable to contain my curiosity, I contacted Alma. "Hey Alma, it might be rude to ask out of the blue, but is your daughter always like that at home?" As I inquired, Alma looked puzzled. "Like what?" "Well, yeah, I guess. Isn't she cute at home?" "Cute?" After making those remarks, feeling a tinge of anger, I continued. "It's true that she looks a lot like Alma, and her face is incredibly cute. But does she really say those things to her own father on a daily basis?" "Yeah, it's just the way she is. Besides, she's a kid who can't lie. She speaks her mind honestly. She's true to herself." As Alma said that, she laughed over the phone, almost as if implying that her daughter couldn't possibly be at fault. I think it's great that she's honest, but today it happened to me too. I think it would be better if she didn't say such things, at least not in front of other people. And Alma, you're able to live the way you do because of your husband, right? When I said that, Alma chuckled. "Hey, that's different, isn't it? I married my husband. He's lucky to have married someone as beautiful as me, don't you think?" I was left speechless. Alma continued one-sidedly. "Besides, he liked me, so he won't say anything in the end. If he has a problem, I'm willing to divorce him, you know?" She said just outrageous things so casually. It wasn't just her daughter. Alma herself had a condescending attitude towards her husband from the beginning. Perhaps it was because of that household environment that her daughter had ended up joining on berating her husband. That's what I thought. Realizing that it was pointless to say anything more, I switched to small talk and hung up the phone shortly after. All that remained was regret. If it was going to leave such a bad taste in my mouth in the end, I should have just kept quiet from the beginning. That regret swelled within me. Although I had just met him today, I somehow understood her husband's character. He probably wasn't someone who stood out since his school days, but rather a quiet and gentle person. For Alma, who had grown up being admired by men for her appearance, her husband was someone she had chosen for herself. She might even want me to be grateful. In the end, even though Alma herself had chosen to marry him. Previously, Alma said something when we met at the taekwondo class. Her husband seems to be a high-earning individual. When my daughter mentioned wanting to take the junior high school entrance exam, my husband immediately agreed, she said. Even when she mentioned wanting to enroll her in various extracurricular activities to gain an advantage in the exam, he didn't oppose it at all. These days, extracurricular activities can be quite expensive, and not many families can afford to have their children participate in so many. But Alma, a housewife, and her daughter can easily afford numerous activities, all thanks to her husband's income. Of course, all the living expenses are covered by her husband. Both Alma and her daughter depend on her husband to sustain their lives. Why can she say such things so nonchalantly? Without an ounce of gratitude, she treats her husband as if he were an ATM. Every time I think about it, anger wells up inside me, so I eventually stopped thinking about it. A few months later, on the day of Alma's daughter's graduation ceremony, her daughter said, "Dad, don't come." As expected, her husband did not attend the ceremony. It seemed that only Alma participated in the graduation ceremony. After safely finishing the ceremony and returning home, there was an envelope placed on the table in the living room. Inside the envelope, there was a letter from her husband, which said, "I can't bear to be with the family anymore. I will leave as you and your daughter wished. If there's anything, please contact the lawyer." Inside the envelope, along with this letter, there was a business card of a lawyer. Caught off guard by her husband's unexpected actions, Alma hurriedly called him, but he had already blocked her calls, and she couldn't get through. When she contacted his workplace, "We cannot disclose personal information." And when she contacted her husband's parents, "Consult with the lawyer," they insisted. Reluctantly, Alma contacted a lawyer. "I would like to discuss the details, so please come to the office." She was told, and she immediately headed to the lawyer's office. The lawyer explained the situation calmly. "Your husband was subjected to verbal abuse from you and your daughter, which amounts to domestic violence." "We didn't do such a thing." But the lawyer continued, "It's not physical violence, but verbal abuse. Your words have caused your husband years of suffering. This can be considered significant domestic violence." Alma was overwhelmed by the lawyer's words. Furthermore, it seemed that her husband had been secretly recording the verbal abuse he received from Alma and their daughter, which would serve as substantial evidence. The lawyer continued speaking. "Your husband is a kind person. He has promised to provide child support for your daughter until she turns 20. If you have any objections, please hire a lawyer as well." In response, Alma expressed her disagreement. "I did not agree to a divorce." After some time, she received a message from her mother-in-law. "Come to our house, and I will give you the child support." As soon as Alma arrived at her husband's family home, she caused a commotion. "I did not agree to a divorce." However, her mother-in-law, who was well aware of the situation, scolded her severely. "Don't speak as if my son is an angel. It's a matter of you and your daughter's character. Show some remorse." She was harshly reprimanded. Of course, Alma had no words to retort and simply looked down. From then on, Alma and her daughter started going to her husband's family home every month to receive child support. Each time, they endured hours of lectures from her mother-in-law. At first, Her daughter resisted, but now she has learned to silently listen to her mother-in-law's words. Surviving on just the child support was impossible, so Alma had no choice but to work. She worked tirelessly every day to support herself and her daughter, and she gradually deteriorated. I haven't seen her since then, but I heard she looks much older than her actual age now. Contrary to her struggles, her daughter, who had just started junior high school, unleashed her stress from home by hurling verbal abuse at those around her, causing numerous problems. It was the result of the sincerity Alma had once mentioned. The pent-up frustration she had towards her father was now directed at her classmates, and she gradually became avoided, completely isolated. As a result, she hardly attends the school she had successfully entered. On the other hand, her husband's achievements at work were recognized, and he kept getting promoted. Now, he happily spends his days with both of his parents. By the way, you might be wondering how I know so much about her. Well, it turns out that my mother and Alma's ex-mother-in-law are good friends. It wasn't like they were close from the beginning. They happened to meet at a yoga class and became friends from there. When my mother found out that Alma and I went to the same university, she shared this story with me. Since I hadn't been involved with Alma since that phone call, I had no idea what had happened to her. If my mother hadn't told me, I would probably still be completely unaware of her family situation. After hearing the whole story from my mother, she repeatedly advised me. You need to take care of your husband and daughter, okay? Although I've always done my best to take care of my husband and daughter, this conversation made me more aware of the importance of it. Nobody knows when or how a family can fall apart. Even if I think I'm okay, I can't know if the other person is okay. Regarding this matter, I do feel sorry for Alma in some ways, but in the end, it's likely the result that was bound to happen. If Alma had shown a proper attitude toward her husband in front of her daughter might not have developed the personality that would verbally abuse him. I don't think I'll ever meet Alma again, and knowing her prideful nature since long ago, she probably doesn't want to see me anymore either. It's unlikely that she would want to show acquaintances how miserable she has become. This event became a turning point for me to start valuing the people around me, just as the saying goes. When you see someone else's behavior, reflect on your own.